I'm Chris, and I'm C-Beem, and you are listening to Rock at Night.
Yeah, are you ready? Hey, tonight I'm gonna take you on a little trip. We're going down south by the mighty Mississippi. I'm gonna take you to a place where lights never dim. Bring your mother, your brother, and your best friend. I'm gonna show you where they dance out in the street. They'll tell you all about your body heat. Not gonna talk about it, just gonna do it. Get on down, if you feel up good. Get on down.
This is Charisse with Rock at Night, and today we are speaking with Chris Mills of C-Beem. We've been into his music since, I'd say, about 2021 when he came out with his album Neon Gods, and we reviewed Tinfoil Hat. Love that song. Yeah, that's when you got onto our radar there. And Ed Straker, love that whole futuristic thing. That's really fun. And so we've been into his synth music for the last couple of years, but it's the first time we've been able to really speak to you. And we want to know who you are, Chris.
Wow, where did we start?
Who are you?
Well, I have to say, I was kind of surprised in the attention that I received from you, because I perceive you as being a very rock metal kind of outfit, and there's often been a bit of a dichotomy between rock, the acoustic power of it, the sort of analog kind of thing, and between synth pop, which is, it's almost like they're different camps. And yet you go deeper and you talk to a lot more people, and no, maybe it's not quite so different. It's like Gary Newman has a fantastic kind of metal rock following, and he's even electrified and rockified his sound more to appeal to that audience, So, yeah, maybe it's not such a surprise when you really think about it and go into it. It was certainly great when you reviewed Tinfoil Hat and Ed Straker Future. I didn't expect it to happen, but you did. It was brilliant.
A lot of your synth music merged into goth and industrial, though. When you think about
it, I suppose it's. Do you mean in general? Do you mean my
music? In general, it got really a hard edge. It wasn't so. Yeah,
it's inevitable. I mean, that kind of warming up and richening of the sound. If you go right back to Kraftwerk, they were in love with the pure electro. It was a purist thing. But it's inevitable that people will say, well, like Ultravox came along and thought, well, how can we make this sound richer, warmer, more interesting, almost like singing, like a vocal sound, Ultravox vocal. And that's a natural development to always want to see where you can take something next. So I followed that kind of progression even in my own music, that something with Neon Gods, pretty much a straight kind of synth pop sound, kind of mostly. But I've found that with this latest album that's coming up, Jamming the Steam Towers, I really wanted to delve deeper. I'm really into a band they're kind of not really in the scene much now at all. It's World Party. One of my favorite albums that they came out with is Goodbye Jumbo. So Carl Wallinger is one of my music heroes, who's behind World Party. And that album has always fascinated me because it's so multifaceted, it's kaleidoscopic, it's got so much to it. From one song to the another, you're hearing this different emphasis. So I've always wanted to maybe get away from being conceptually tight and getting into something that's a bit more of a pastiche. So Jamming the Steam Towers is a pastiche. It's got elements of rock in it, 70s, a bit of folk, and it's got the synth pop, the synth music. It kind of goes across the epochs. That's what I've been aiming for. How successful that is, we shall let others decide.
Actually, I listened to Jamming the Steam Towers, and you're right. There is kind of a mix of genres in there. Your first song, Peekaboo, I'm fascinated with it because it's very Oingo Boingo-ish, I feel.
Oingo Boingo, that's a new way of putting it. Yeah, that was a collaboration with a guy called Clive Newlands, who I've sort of hooked up with kind of in recent months. He's a brilliant musician. So he came up with the actual musicality of that track. He composed it. He's a really good musician. And he asked me, can you come up with something for this? And a vocal, and a lyric. And I listened to that, and the beginning is very circus-like. It's
kind of creepy.
It's creepy, yeah.
Kind of creepy, Chris.
I thought creepy circus, Stephen King, clowns, And
Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman.
Yes. And so I came up with this kind of lyric, and the way I sang it kind of sparks like like
Mhm.
Sparks, remember them? And it really hung. It just it seemed to come together really well. I was surprised myself, and I think I surprised Clive as well. And yeah, so we released that as a single, a collaborative single. Yeah.
And I noticed this album is different because you are collaborating with a lot of different people. You usually don't do that, do you?
No, it's the first time I've done something like that. There's a guy called Lockie Brooks down under in Australia, in Sydney, and he's a very, very good musician, very good songwriter. I heard a couple of his things on SoundCloud, and so it was a case of me approaching him and saying, "Hey, Lockie, this is really great, and I'm putting together a new album, and there's a couple of songs here that are, I'd love to cover." And he said, "Yeah, go ahead, go for it." He was very unselfish about it. He said, "As long as you credit me, of course you do that. As long as you credit me, just do what you can with it." And I think he was pleasant reaction to those as well, to those songs. It's good fun hooking up with other people. It gives you a chance to diversify a bit and sort of
Now,
alter your voice a little.
he's in Australia, so obviously you're
Yeah.
working remotely.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So we haven't never met in person. There's almost everybody I've worked with. I've never met them in person. All the reviewers, DJs, podcasters. It's they're all in this kind of limbo state somewhere else. Yeah, that's the way it is for a solo artist like me. If I ever go live or get with a group or band or something, maybe that's different. But at the moment, I'm sealed inside this fortress of music with and talking to people remotely or by email or like this as I'm with
Mhm.
you now.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
It is. It is indeed.
It's changed everything. Yeah, the song that you did with him, "Without Love, Nothing Is
Without
Real,"
love,
very
nothing
pretty,
is
very
real.
piano driven.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very pleased with the result of that. It is a pretty song. Very.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of Donovan or maybe some of the '70s rock feel, slightly laid back, kind of hippie like feel to it. You
Uh,
know,
I was picking up between that one and there's a song called "Long Walk," Graham
oh,
Summers.
Long Walk. So that's Graham
Both of it
Summers.
seems when you
Yeah,
collaborate, you do more, I have to say traditional music, but the Zombies.
the
I think,
Zombies.
yeah, I think of the
Yeah, yeah.
Zombies.
That makes that you think of them with that
Yeah,
particular track.
60s kind of
Yeah,
zombies because
yeah,
they did more traditional songs,
yeah.
but beautiful and just lyrical.
Yeah, it was just one of those tracks that just laid itself open for a natural approach. Don't try and
Mhm,
be too clever with it. It is what it is. Because that's the way Lockie Brooks writes his songs and Graham
mhm,
Summers too. There's more folk backgrounds.
mhm,
So I don't think you should try and be too avant-garde or try and be too clever with
mhm.
music like that. Let it just breathe. There's room for inventiveness with other genres and other mediums, but with that, just let it breathe,
Mhm.
let the message come through.
It's good that you're branching out like that. That means you're growing as a musician.
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know where it's going to lead.
Mhm,
Because you see, the thing is, the reason I started with synthesizers so much is because I felt confident there. Because my first instrument is piano, synth, keyboards.
mhm,
My guitar skills are not really as developed. So I've had to kind of pace myself as I go along in my musical journey to think, okay, and get some guitar into this now. I think I'm just about good enough to get some chords in there that sound right, but it's still not the case where I'm doing Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Mark Knopfler, Dave Gilmour extravaganzas. I haven't got there yet. Maybe I'll do a little bit more development on that. But I think it's a case that if you, as long as you keep it right, it doesn't have to be music fireworks. But if it's structured well and it sits in with the music, that's fine. Yeah. We'll see how things develop on the guitar front and do it using different
mhm.
instruments.
Guitar's accompaniment. You can do
Yeah,
your riffs with a piano, with a
that's it.
keyboard. You don't
Yeah,
need the guitar.
not necessarily. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
with "Without Love, Nothing Is Real" it is
Mhm.
pretty much powered by that piano.
Yeah.
Those two chords. And there's a little bit of strumming and guitar there in the background, and you carefully mix it in, you get a lovely blend.
Mhm. So who is Graham Summers?
Graham Summers is a folk musician who's based in the Leicester or Leicestershire area where
Mhm,
where I live,
mhm,
and I got through to him by hearing a free CD that was given to me by a band member of his folk band, and there was a particular song, "The Long Walk." Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. That is so gorgeous. I'd love to
It's
cover
very
that.
pretty.
That's really where it starts, isn't it? You just think, that's gorgeous. I've got to do that. I've got to see how I can apply myself. And again, he had a really nice attitude about it. Yeah, go ahead. I think people are very flattered and they feel very pleased when somebody else comes up and says, I love your song so much. I'd like to see what I can do with it, you know? I think that's the ultimate form of flattery, really, isn't it?
I totally agree. That's what people say about covers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots
Yes.
of times the covers sound better than the original.
Sometimes, yes, yes. I remember when I was a student in Liverpool, there was a band called River City People who were big at the time, and they did a cover of California Dreamin', and that really made them. Like, they were quite a minor band before that. This is back in the 80s, but when they did that cover of California Dreamin', suddenly people were talking about, oh, the River City People. Yeah, I think I met one or two of them at some point. But it's yeah, you're right. How covers can sometimes make contact with your audience better than your own stuff. In fact, some of the music gurus on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, a lot of them, particularly TikTok, are saying you got to do a cover, man, to get noticed. Do a cover. And it might not be such a bad idea.
What's funny is when the younger generation thinks it's new, when the
Of
song might be
course,
50
yeah.
years old.
Generation Z, I haven't heard of Z. We say Z, Generation Z, haven't
Yeah.
heard of it. They'll think, oh, that's interesting. And I hope perhaps that's something I might achieve with Jamming the Steam Towers. And it's delving back to some past forms, but it might sound fresh to a new audience, you know? Which I hope. I don't really care what age group. I'm not really thinking about that, to be honest with you. I just make the music.
Most of your music, I just get a real 80s vibe. I was thinking of OMD and Squeeze.
Okay, yeah, right.
I happen to be an OMD fan, so
oh yeah, OMD, yeah.
Yeah, I actually was an 80s club girl. That's why I like to cover this
I
kind of
believe
music.
that. I
Not
believe
just
that.
metal and rock.
I can imagine it. Yeah.
I
Did you
was
have
an
your hair
80s
spiked up?
girl. So
Did you spike your hair up?
yep, just
You did.
mix it up. Trust me,
Sure. Were you dressed all in black?
No, I actually always
Not
dressed in
really.
bright, vibrant colors. I had my hair red back then. I had like a waterfall, like what's a flock of seagulls?
Oh, that kind of thing. So you weren't a goth.
Geez,
You were more romantic.
I looked like I was pretty wild looking back then.
Go for it.
Red hair. One burning question. I notice most of your music was done in around 2021, I'd say after COVID. Is that when you rediscovered music, or have you been making music all along? What's your history?
Yeah, there's been a long hiatus because I've dabbled in a lot of different art forms. Music was kind of the first thing when I was little, playing piano and a few little bands and outfits with my brothers. Then went to college and I did a bit more music there. And then I kind of got into art and visual art and writing, and I had these real aspirations into illustration and art. And that got me into the computer games industry as a digital artist. And then I dabbled in a bit of writing in more recent years, and kind of music got pushed to the background. And I convinced myself that this isn't something I can ever do. And as you get older, you think, oh, I can't do that. Oh, you're not allowed to do that. It's only for the young, cool people. And then I think, oh, hell with that. And so in more recent years, there's been a bit of a change of mentality. After the death of my parents, they passed away several years ago. And it's one of those things where you're suddenly reminded of your own mortality, and you've got to do the things that you want to do because you don't have that long. And that sounds a bit depressing, but it's true. You need to do the things you want to do. Yeah. And I did have a bit of another reminder of my mortality, October 2021, when I had a heart failure. And it was my pulse rate went down to something like 28. Something happened, like myocarditis or something. Yeah, nobody could really pinpoint what it was, but I had this massive arrhythmia and I had to get straight into hospital, and they kitted me out with all that I need to be kitted out with, and they sorted me out. I feel fantastic. But again, another reminder that you've got to do what you want to do. So this album has been since Warriors, that single you reviewed that. That Warriors was based on that event, that you come out of something and you realize you've got to kind of fight and keep forging onwards because you don't have that long. Make the most of it, to have a warrior spirit, and don't let people put you off. Don't let people put you down, because people will. when they get jealous of what you're doing, or they won't recognize you, they won't acknowledge you, you know, you just have to push them to the background and keep going and just do what you want to do.
Say no to the haters.
Oh, well, they're not haters. It's more just say no to the ignorers, really. Because you're doing, when you do interesting, creative things, it gets them to question their lives, and they start thinking, well, maybe the things that they'd like to do and they haven't, and they've neglected. And I think some people feel a bit threatened by that, and they punish you with silence because you're doing something they're not. You just have to get on with it and keep your eyes and ears and your brain to those people who appreciate what you're doing.
I think there's ageism too here.
Oh yeah, definitely. And because a lot of people my own similar age, that's what they're thinking. You're too old to be doing that. That's well, again, wrong, because and I said this somewhere else in an interview, that if you're writing a book and you're in your 40s or 50s, nobody questions that. They think that's okay. But with music, it somehow becomes a different matter because of the perception of what particularly pop music and rock music represents, teenage rebellion. But no, not necessarily. If you just love music and you love putting sounds together, the whole creative aspect, that's timeless. That doesn't belong to any generation. That's universal. So you tap into that without worrying about things like that. That's the way I keep forging on.
Music that is good no matter when it was written.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, look, I love going back into my CD collection and delving back into music that's gone by. I mean, people might criticize Coldplay for going very poppy, but then you look at the back catalogue. You go back to Rush of Blood to the Head and Milo Xyloto and Parachutes. You think, something, this was bloody good music. This was really, really good. And people can be very fickle, and they judge a band on what they kind of did more recently, and they forget about the back catalogue. But what a tremendous thing, what tremendous stuff they've come up with. It shouldn't be forgotten. And it's important for musicians to do that. Raid the vinyl collection, raid the CDs, go back, listen, retrieve. And I wish that I hadn't got rid of so many CDs. I made this mistake of thinking, oh, it's all streaming. And I did this ridiculous thing of chucking out loads and loads of really good CDs. What an idiot. Now I'm in the process of trying to get them all back. And I'm finding in the local charity shops, I'm pretty convinced that they're the CDs that I gave them, from Oxfam and people, the British Heart Foundation. We've got these fantastic CD collections. I think most of them are from me.
I better not throw my CDs away, because I was thinking the same thing. Like,
you'll regret it.
Declutter my life. I'm trying to get rid of stuff and declutter my life. But
some things are not clutter. It's like there's William Morris, the great designer, has said, have nothing in your life that is neither useful nor beautiful. And I'd say that CDs are beautiful. Well, records, tangible media is useful and it is beautiful. So don't get rid of it. That's part of your life. That's what I would say.
Back to your music. One thing that I notice, very smart lyrics, a lot of criticism of culture. You talk about science and future a lot.
I suppose I do.
Yeah, you do.
Well, I'm son of a scientist, I think.
Well, even Tinfoil Hat is a criticism.
I just was thinking about that today, and I've been seeing how many UFO reports there are. It's coming thick and fast, and I don't think it can all be fake. I'm thinking there's actually something to this. Something's going on. Even the American in Washington, they've pretty much said there's stuff up there that's flying around that defies the laws of physics. It's not made by any of our lot, no other nation, not us. It comes from somewhere else. That's American officialdom saying that in government and across the world. So if they're saying it, something's definitely going on. So maybe the tinfoil hatters are not tinfoil hatters. Maybe they might be onto something. I was just thinking about that. Have I been a bit unfair in that song?
Well, there's a lot of conspiracies. Maybe the UFO thing might be real, but other things are just...
It's the things that build up around it. Yeah, when people start getting some really weird stuff. Yeah, that you think,
well, I know,
that's
I'm into science, and I know you are too. Wasn't your father a
He
scientist or
was.
something?
He
Yeah.
was. He lectured at Leicester University in planetary science, which brings together the disciplines of astronomy and geology. So he was. He had a fascinating job. I used to love visiting him. The office that he had. He had all these ammonites and geological rock formations and star maps. He really was the proverbial professor, you know. Yeah, big influence on me because he was a scientist through and through, and he had no time for any kind of mysticism, nothing that couldn't be proven. Whereas it's going to be a bit schizophrenic, really, but my mother was very religious. So I
You're
had this kind of
kidding.
duality, this kind of dual upbringing for someone who's very religious, very, really almost like a
Wow.
Catholic, it's a high church Christianity, and then dad, who is a kind of agnostic scientist. So I see things from both sides of the story, and I just wonder at what point in human development maybe the two strands of religion and science, or faith and science, spirituality and science, may come together in some convergence that to produce a third statement, something that's different. I think in 100 years' time there'll be some kind of philosophy that will be a blend of the two, and we shall see. Well, I won't be around to see it,
No, we won't
but
be.
well, you know,
That's
who
why you
knows?
have to make music, and that's your
This is it.
legacy.
That's it.
That's your
Please
legacy.
remember, you futuristic people with your silicon implants in your brains. Yeah, just remember us.
Now, some of your songs touch on literature too, like Toad of Toad Hall,
Oh
Wind in the
yeah,
Willows.
on Wind in the Willows. Yeah, I mean every song tells a story, doesn't it? And I like to think all of my songs are based upon the sort of real life kind of experiences, things people have said, things I've seen, little quips, like a poet, And my wife Julia said to me not so long ago, we talked about all the things I've done, like the art and the music and writing, hopping from different things, one thing to another. She says, "You're like Toad of Toad Hall in Wind in the Willows. This restless character.
Mhm.
He's got one hobby after another. He can never stick to one thing." It made me laugh. I think, yeah, maybe that's a bit of my life
Well,
story, really.
you're on a wild ride.
Yeah, I'm trying with the music to be a bit more consistent and stick with it and not get distracted. I'm trying not to be too Toad-like. He's a fascinating character, and he ends up in all kinds of trouble, doesn't he, in the book?
My favorite ride at Disney World is Mr. Toad's ride.
Yeah,
It
I should
is.
have done. I should have done a video to that. It would have been quite funny.
Yeah, going through
Well, I
that
just
ride.
I could do a retrospective video. You don't always have to do a video at the time that you're releasing a song. You could sort of do it, looking back and release it. And yeah, you can do that.
Now, Chris, you're kind of a one-man show. Have you ever thought, or are you planning to do anything live?
I'd love to, but it's getting the confidence and the resources together. And you can go down if you're a solo artist, you can go down that route of backing tapes and stuff. But I always think that's a bit like karaoke. And I don't want to be a glorified karaoke act.
Yeah.
I'm being a bit lazy on that front. It's something I'd love to do, but you've got to put together the people, and to organize yourself into a live context is very different to working in your studio. At the moment, I'm a studio rat, looking through the chinks in the wall and thinking there is a wider world out there that I really should be part of. Let's see how it goes. It might never happen. I don't know. It'd be fantastic if I could work with a record company or something like that, and maybe put together some musicians and tour it or something like that. But that hasn't happened, not yet, anyway.
Well, I mean, some of the one guy, Graham, is local, more or less. I mean, couldn't you do some duo gigs with somebody just to get your feet wet or something?
It's an idea. Yeah. It's just reaching out a bit, but you feel that these people have their own lives, their own musical journeys. They've got their own bands together, their own sound. And I guess I'm quite possessive about the sound that I have. And would anyone be able to sort of put together the way I'd like it? I'm a bit afraid of myself, really, that I might be a bit of a fascist when it comes to kind of getting that sound that I want and piss people off. Yeah, there's things to think about.
Well, that's one plus of being a solo artist. You have complete artistic control.
Yes, it's the control. That's the other control.
You control freak, you.
It's great. Yeah. Put the jackboots on. This is my kingdom.
And one thing with live, I guess when you have layers and layers of synth in a recording, it might be kind of hard to
Mm.
reproduce that,
Well,
or
yeah, that's something
I don't
that
know.
not that I'm comparing myself too much, but as well, Gary Newman, he often has to tirelessly explain to people why he uses so much backing in his live shows. He gets complaints, that's not live, it's a backing tape. But he says, look, I've got that many different layers of sound, as you've just
Yeah.
said there, that many layers of sound going on. It's kind of automated anyway, in the sense that it comes from sequenced arrangements. So that is a backing tape anyway. That's automation anyway. And if you're trying to replicate the sound on his vinyls purely with players, he'd probably need 10 different keyboard players on stage. That's a lot of
It's
people to
true.
pay,
Like,
and it's a lot more to organize and a lot more to go wrong. So yeah, he does rely upon sort of automated backing, but it makes sense in the context of what he does as primarily an electronic synth orientated artist.
mhm. And it's
Yeah,
funny because audiences, they feel, oh, it doesn't sound like the record if you play something live.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
then if you put in a string section or something, then they're pissed like it's Milli Vanilli fake.
Yes, oh god, yeah, I remember Milli
You know what I'm
Vanilli,
remember
that whole thing. Oh,
that?
that's pretty extreme though, isn't it? Yeah, I mean they
Sorry about
oh,
that.
no, no, no. I mean that really is an extreme. But I don't think there's a problem with having some sort of as I
It's
saw Peter.
embellishments. There's
It's
nothing wrong with
embellishment.
that.
Peter
There's
Gabriel
nothing wrong
does
with
it.
that.
It's nothing wrong with it. And as you say, some audience they want to hear some of those sounds that they expect from the
Mhm.
from the recording. From
Yeah.
yeah, and if you don't do that, they'll think you sound a bit tinny and a
Mhm.
bit hollow. So yeah, yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time,
Oh.
unfortunately. So I want to know what's on the horizon for the rest of the year. You're going to put out more videos, singles, I presume.
Ooh, I'm going to be putting a lot of energy into promoting this album that's
Mhm.
Jamming Steam Towers is coming out May the 19th. So I'm going to be putting some energy into that and try and get it heard as many as possible, because I'm also doing it on CD and vinyl as well, hopefully.
Oh,
Definitely
vinyl,
CD and
nice.
hopefully vinyl as well. I'm looking into all of these things. So that's another new thing. But
Mhm.
previously, it's all been just streaming.
Mhm.
So that will take up a bit of energy, but I think musically speaking, I need a bit of a what's the word, hiatus, a
Mhm.
spell of rest, just
Yeah.
to empty my head a little bit, let the ashes settle, and then see what comes up. Maybe in a couple of months' time. That's the plan, and I may be doing some more collabing as well with a certain person, but I'll keep that space open.
See what's in the news so you can do some more cultural criticism.
Cultural criticism. Oh, I don't want to get the reputation of a cultural critic. That sounds very, very dull.
We're in election
Oh,
year this year, so we're getting
I
into
hear what's going on over in. Oh, I'm sorry.
oh
Am I overstepping the mark by
it's
expressing what's
it's
going on in
usually not a
Florida?
pretty
And
thing over here.
God, it sounds like a nightmare. It
I
really
know.
does. They're
It's
burning the books, man.
what was that?
They're
Excuse me.
burning books.
Yeah, yeah, that's going back to the witch trials.
Good grief, yeah, the Salem Witch. Oh my
Salem.
God. Oh yeah, back in the Middle Ages. Well, it certainly has resonances with pre-war Germany, but
Yeah,
really,
doesn't it?
yeah,
The
it does. It
1930s, you're
does.
right.
There's a lot you guys have to do to combat it and fight it with all of your might.
Mhm.
So
You-
that's my belief.
Censorship never was a good thing. Let's put it this way.
Oh, it's a democracy. It's freedom of
Yes.
speech. You don't burn books in a democracy. For God's
It,
sake.
if you don't want to look at something, don't look at it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
Let people
choice,
choose. But these,
you know?
well, we're going to go deep into politics if we're not careful. Well, I think
Okay,
it's
okay.
hard,
We'll keep it. We'll keep
Therese, it's
it.
difficult not to be political, isn't it? It's so worrying. It's so concerning. It's
Well,
difficult not to be political.
yeah, it's just that some of the lyrics and stuff are, well, I mean, like tinfoil hat or whatever, and they're just kind of, you know, I'd say cultural criticism, which is to me is a good
Yeah,
thing.
cultural comment. Yeah, I say comment,
Comments,
social
yeah,
comment. You
yeah,
can say, yeah, yeah. I'm proud of it though. I do like that single, and
I
I'm
do.
tempted to maybe, yeah, it comes out well, but I just question perhaps some of the sentiments behind it as further truths seem to emerge.
It was that
Mm.
song that caught my interest in
Uh,
your music. So
That's
There
great.
must be
It
something in
caught some other
it.
people's attention too. There must be something
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, we'll keep going at it. And maybe do something similar to it
Mhm.
in due course. Who knows?
We'll keep doing what you're doing, and we'll be coming out with our review of your new album coming
Oh,
out
I
in
look forward
May.
to seeing that. Yeah, I look forward to seeing that.
And
Definitely.
as
Yeah,
always, keep in touch with us and
will
we'll
do.
continue to support you and your music because I do like synth music.
I'm very honoured, Sharice. Very honoured indeed. Thank you so much for giving me your time.
Like I said, I was a nightclub dance girl for many years. So, I feel it's upbeat music. It's stuff that I like to listen to in the car.
Oh yeah, I like listening to music in the car.
Yeah,
It's a good place to listen to
keeps the
music.
hostility down.
Yeah, it does. You're in your own little bubble, your own little sort of cocoon. It's like
Yeah,
Gary
and
Newman.
it
Oh,
is. When the window up, you're listen
that's
that's
it.
all you have is the music and you listen to the
I
lyrics and
remember in
yeah.
Britain with our weather, the window's usually closed.
I'm in shorts right now, baby. I'm in
Oh,
shorts
I'm jealous.
in
I'm jealous.
Florida. Here is C-Beem with Starships.
Where did all the starships go? I've been singing on the radio. Oh, I really wanna know. Where did all the saucers fly? Didn't stop to wave goodbye. Where did they all go? You should know there's nothing left of me since you vanished into space faster than your laser beams. How could you, when I needed you most, you turned to ghost and this brave new world I find in a black and white cloud, stumbling blind. Starships, I could touch you with my fingertips. Double man with the magic tricks. Crazy visions on the lyric sheets. So tell me how will my dreams keep going now? Feeling like I'm so disempowered. Locked tight in a tower now. Breakfast in America, eat them all day. Just a topographical ocean away. Choose the right mast for the silver machine. Islands in the sky like you want them to be. Businessmen on fire shaking each other's hands. Hospital beds stretching out on the sand. Space hopping over US of A. Surfing on Saturn's rings, do it today. Hey, hey. Starships, gonna build you on a landing strip. I'll be waiting with my glowing sticks. No matter what time you make your hit. When things are cool, stop sailing on a planet of fools. You'll be spinning like you used to do. Then I know that your promise was true. Where did all the starships go? Used to call them on the telephone. Oh, I really wanna know. Where did all the saucers fly? Didn't stop to wave goodbye. Where did they all go?
You're listening to Rock at Night. The introductory song, Get On Down, is from blues artist Billy Bass Alford. Look for his music at ReverbNation.com.